Greetings and welcome once more to another episode of Sonic Odyssey, the music video channel dedicated to bringing you the last 5 decades or so of music in review and discussion format. Before we go any further, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. Please remember to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you don't already do so. Also, you can consider visiting my Patreon page. There's a link in the show description right below this video, and there you'll see the different tiers that are available to help support the channel. That's the housekeeping. Let's get on to today's topic. Today we're going to be listening to and discussing Long Island, New York's metal-adjacent prog hard rockers Moontooth and their 2022 spring release Phototroph. The clip I just played is the third song on the album, entitled Death Wish Blues. As heard, the clip begins with a sonic bombardment before evolving into a kind of swirling, circling guitar riff and the vocals coming in on top of that. This heavy guitar-driven sound with strong emphasis on vocals and these wonderful syncopated drums is the style of sound that permeates the majority of Moontooth's music. This clip was my first choice to express to you and show to you the style of richness to the sonic delivery that Moontooth provides on Phototroph. A little bit of a bio. Formed in 2012 by Nick Lee on guitars and Ray Mart on drums, they had previously been together in a band, and they found a sort of musical kinship, if you would, with vocalist John Carbone and bassist Vincent Romanelli, and thus Moontooth was born. During their first year alone, they played more than 100 shows, gaining a reputation for powerful performances with intense musical stylings and sensibilities. Their debut LP came in the form of 2016's Chroma Paragon. This was an album that garnered Moontooth a great deal of widespread acclaim. It was filled with progressive, hard rock, and slightly metal-tinged sounds, but it was a fairly far-reaching album with an eclectic assemblage of songs. There's magnificent musicianship, undoubtedly. They have years of experience prior to even being together as a band, and this quartet has been the only lineup for the band Moontooth, so they really have a very strong understanding of each other and a good sense of how to perform with each other and off of each other. Stylistically, their debut album kind of explored a range of soundscapes, and it was never easily resting in one place too long to really be nailed down or categorized as a particular genre or style. Basically, they explored a wide range of sonic tapestries. The band toured extensively, and during their touring for support of Chroma Paragon, they earned the attention of a very well-known and prominent producer by the name of Machine, who's worked with bands from King Crimson to Lamb of God. Machine took it upon himself to contact the band as he was interested in producing their sophomore album, and he, along with Mark Morton from Lamb of God, co-produced the album that was released in 2019 entitled Crux. Crux built upon the foundation that had been set by Chroma Paragon, but was a little bit darker and edgier, while also being a slightly more mature growth of the band's playing together and developing their own tapestry of sonic landscapes and creating what is undeniably a very unique voice in the metal or hard rock, prog rock arena. Crux was even more widely praised and hailed by critics than Chroma Paragon had been, and then the pandemic came. Phototroph is the result of that downtime from touring, and so they went in and decided to write and record and create the songs which would ultimately result in the release of Phototroph in just a couple months back in the spring of 2022. On this album, Moontooth easily presents their most accessible and most diverse range of songs yet. The clip that I opened the video with gives you kind of a sense of their groove-oriented style, and that's much more the case with this newest album. While their earlier albums had been a little bit more on the heavier prog side and exploring sonic realms in a more adventurous and daring way, this album is much more controlled and finely crafted. They really did a brilliant job of bringing the sonic structures into a tighter, cohesive whole, and it comes through when you listen to it. It's easily, when you hear it the first time, it's very catchy and pop-oriented, but it does reveal itself with further listens as a much richer and deeper tapestry of sound than you might initially experience on a first listen. And their sound is one that has always been very heavily guitar and vocal oriented. The vocals of John Carbone are really unique. He's got a very distinctive voice, and it does have a very strong emotional and soulful quality to it that is present in just about everything that he sings. And the style of guitar work is very riff-oriented and groove-oriented, although there are marvelous flourishes of solos and lead work throughout the album. But the greater portion of it is the heavy riffing and grooves that are laid down. One thing that I note, I want to make mention of the marvelous drumming that is on the album. It's really a fantastic job that Mr. Mart does. It's really a distinctive and syncopated sound that comes through in the back. It's not as deeply buried as the bass, and that's going to probably be my only critique of the album, is that on earlier albums, Moontooth had allowed the bass a lot more reach, a lot more prominence of place in the sound. But on this album, Phototroph, they keep the bass a little bit too subdued. There's only a few times where you really get to hear the bass prominent and forward in the mix, but it's, I think, not a bad thing. I want to say that it's not the worst element or the most awful thing that could happen for this album, because I think this album is absolutely brilliant. They did a brilliant job of putting together a platter of 11 songs, clocking in at about 43 minutes, which are very catchy, very ear-hooky. They really snag your ear and hold on to it, and once you listen to the album more than once or twice, you'll have these songs living in your head. They take up space rent-free, and you'll be glad to have their tenancy. So this overall development or tendency within the sound on this new album to have this sort of radio-friendly, more pop-oriented sound to this slightly metal-tinged hard rock progressive music is something that allows the band to shine more brightly as a whole, even with a little bit less attention or direct emphasis on the interplay between bass and guitar, as well as the overall use of the vocals as a primary element for your ear to catch on to. It's still, I think, a marvelous presentation, and the portions where the bass does come through really do shine brightly. And even when it's in the background, a little bit more subdued. It's still there rumbling and heavy in the back and pulling the sound forward, even though the bass is just so lower in the mix. So it's a little bit, again, my only critique, but I can understand their reason for structuring the songs this way. After all, the primary purpose of just about any artistic endeavor is to achieve some amount of acclaim and success, and that's what they do here with Phototroph. Moontooth definitely does get a little bit greater accessibility and therefore more critical and commercial success through making their sound much more accessible to the greater lion's share of the populace. But in contrast to their darker and grittier 2019 album Crux, Phototroph is, as I stated before, a very positive album. It's a very upbeat album. To call it a feel-good album would probably be fair, and also to call it a potential album of the year candidate is justifiable. It is a wonderful and brilliant collection of songs. And if you look at reviews for it, around the internet or in magazines, you'll see that the album has received, on average, if it's percentages 90 and above, if it's star ratings, at least 4 to 5, if not 5 out of 5 stars. One person had the album rated as perfect. And these are reviews that I can't really argue with. I find them accurate, and in my own opinion, I give this album 4.5 out of 5 stars. I honestly believe that Moontooth has created one of the best and most accessible heavy rock, progressive, slightly metal-tinged collections of songs that I've heard in a long time. I'm put in mind of a couple of bands that I've reviewed on the channel before. It sort of reminds me to a certain degree of Volbeat's music, as well as a little bit of Mastodon, especially with the guitar and drum work most significantly. And it is a slight step away from what they had done on Chroma Paragon and Crux, but it is a maturation and a development of their style and their writing capabilities. It really is a marvelous overall complete package, and that's why I do give it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It would be perfect if not, again, for the production, which I think takes it down just a little bit. I think that the overall sound is good. The guitar work comes through brilliantly. The vocals are beautiful and emotive and soulful. The drumming is spectacular, but the bass is just a little bit lost behind some of the sound. As I said, there are a few points where it comes through brilliantly, but for the most part, it's relegated to kind of a backseat position. So with that being said, I thank you very much for your time and attention. Please do check out Phototroph by Moontooth. It was just released this year. You can find it on Bandcamp. I know Apple Music or iTunes has it, and I'm sure Spotify does. It's really firing up the charts and worth your attention. It's a great album, so please do check it out. Please also remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and possibly consider visiting the Patreon page. You don't have to join, you don't have to contribute, but you can take a look and see if you want to. I thank you very much. Until next time, peace, be well, bye-bye.